So since my last video, a lot of shit has happened in the NBA. In my last video, I talked about Jokic versus Joel Embiid, and now one of those guys is playing with James Harden. Can you believe that? James Harden. The league is truly in a very strange place. One of the strangest places I've ever fucking seen this shit. Because I can't cap the fact that so many teams move so many players and there are so many good trades and so many damn fucking bad trades. It's gonna be really interesting to see how these trades pan out. And one fun fact, I'm not even in my hometown right now. I'm not in Houston. For those who know, I do live there. But the fact that James Harden in back-to-back years has been traded on times I went on vacation, it is insane. Fuck James, come on bruh. I love you, man, and I know a lot of people don't love you right now, but I actually love you, James. And the fact that you keep doing this to me on vacation, it's really pissing me off. For real. But without further ado, I don't want this video to be too long. It's just me grading the major moves. I'm not going to talk about Bagley going to the fucking Pistons because who gives a fuck about that shit. I'm going to be talking about the people that actually matter, not the busts and role players. So you guys make sure you drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and press that bell for post notifications. And now let's get this video started because it's going to be a doozy. Let's take it back to earlier this week before the big moves that happened literally yesterday. And let's talk about CJ McCollum going to the Pelicans because I can't cap, I always knew that was an option and a possibility, but it did shock me seeing that notification on my phone. Because no matter all the years of them failing and losing and Dame staying loyal to the grind, it felt like they were never going to move on from CJ or Dame. And the fact that they actually pulled the trigger, I gotta give credit to the Blazers. They finally grew some balls and made the right decision. For the full trade, the Blazers got Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Didi Louzada, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, and they also got a 2022 protected first round pick, 2 second-round picks, and in exchange to what they gave up to the Pelicans, obviously CJ McCollum, Larry Nance, and Tony Snell. Now before I address the Pelicans side, I'm gonna give the Blazers a C+ because for one, they did get some solid young players. Josh Hart, I like him, I think he's good, a little bit of an inconsistent shooter but a solid defender and rebounder. The Pacers definitely could use those two things on the roster. And getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker and a 2022 protected first round pick, those are assets that are going to be valuable for them in the future, especially that first round pick. The only reason I'm not going to give them a B or an A is because this deal should have been done years ago when everybody kept saying move on from CJ or move on from Dame. And if they had done that when CJ McCollum's value was at its highest, they would have got a better package than this. But then let's move on to the Pelicans, and I gotta give them a B+ because for starters, obviously they got a shot creator in CJ McCollum, and even the role players Larry Nance, Tony Snell, they're good solid defenders, which this team desperately needs, and I'm gonna get to in a second. But CJ McCollum is gonna provide shot creation, floor spacing, and I think he's gonna develop more as a playmaker, or at least show that he can be a better playmaker than a lot of people think, because when Damian Lillard is out, CJ's playmaking looks a lot better. So I definitely think he's gonna aid this team, and when Zion decides to stop being fat, this team's offense is gonna look amazing. I mean, hell, even fat Zion with this team, this offense is going to be nice. Now, the reason I'm not going to give this an A is because I do have questions with their defense. The Pelicans already struggle on that side of the ball with certain aspects. Guys like Zion Williamson is not a good defender. Brandon Ingram has regressed on that side of the ball since he left the Lakers. Devontae Graham is not that great of a defender. And then you're adding a guy like CJ McCollum, who was literally on one of the worst defensive teams in the league last year. So I do question the defensive side of it, but CJ McCollum is going to make this team better, and the fact that they are in the play-in right now at the 10th seed, and who knows what's going to happen with Zion at the end of the year, as soon as this season I could see them making a little bit of noise to get into the playoffs. But speaking of teams trying to get into the playoffs, that brings us to the Domantas Sabonis Tyrese Haliburton trade. In this trade, the Pacers gave up Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, and Justin Holiday to Sacramento in exchange for Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Now I'm going to start off with Sacramento, and I'm going to give them a C. The reason I'm going to give them a C is because, for one, I'm really high on Tyrese Haliburton. I think he can be one of the best guards in the NBA. He has a nice high ceiling, and I think that Sabonis has already kind of peaked as a player. Not saying there isn't a higher level he could play at, but I think we kind of already know what he is. Meanwhile, in the case of Tyrese Haliburton, he's already shown that he can be one of the better offensive guards in the NBA. And I thought if they were going to move a guard, it was probably going to be De'Aaron Fox, who regressed. Meanwhile, Tyrese Haliburton has been playing far better than him over the last couple of weeks. And for you to trade Tyrese for a player in Domantas Sabonis, who I do like, he's he's a solid player that's all-star caliber, but he's not someone that's great defensively. He isn't going to space the floor, and in exchange, you're giving up your two best shooters in order to get him. So you're giving up pieces that fit around your guy, and then you're going to bring in a guy that doesn't fit because he's bad defensively and can't space the floor, which De'Aaron Fox needs those two things because he can't do those things either. I'm not saying they're not going to be a fun team, they're not going to be able to put up their numbers, but as far as making the playoffs, I just don't see that happening. I just don't think that Sabonis really pushes the needle in that direction, and it blows my mind that they passed up trading him for Ben Simmons, but then Domantas Sabonis comes calling and they're like, oh yeah, give us Sabonis. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Simmons would have fit better on this team, especially considering I don't even think they had to give up shooters for him, because you probably could have got Seth Curry in that deal also. And just think about it, to give up a guy like Tyrese who could become an all-star, all-NBA level point guard and is already showing that potential, even outplaying your franchise point guard in De'Aaron Fox right now, to give him up for a player that you don't even know if you're going to make the playoffs with, and let's be honest, they're not going to make the playoffs, it's just dumb to me, honestly. It's really dumb. Now, as far as the Pacers side of it, I'm going to give them an A, because for starters, they've been needing to rebuild forever. This team has been stuck in purgatory hell. They live to be the 15th best team in the league. Mediocre city is the Indiana Pacers, bruh. So the fact that they finally moved on from Sabonis, and I'm expecting them to move off of Miles Turner in the offseason, and a bunch of the players on that team, Malcolm Brogdon included, getting a guy like Tyrese to start off that rebuild, I think is a perfect scenario. He's only in his sophomore season. He's a solid playmaker, a good shooter, even with that clunky ass form, and on the defensive side of the ball, he hasn't been great so far in his career, but he has all the tools with his length and size. And with them tanking the rest of the year and the assets that they're gonna probably have this upcoming offseason, man, I ain't gonna lie, this rebuild shouldn't take that long. But moving on to the next move, we have the Washington Wizards getting Kristaps Porzingis from the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not gonna lie, this trade confused the fuck out of me, bruh. I just could not believe that the Mavericks did the dumbass shit that they pulled, moving Porzingis and the package they got for him. I mean, you would think that Luka and Porzingis, as it's already been reported, they don't like each other, but you would think they got into a fight and they just had to move Porzingis for something. Because this trade, the Wizards get Porzingis and a future second-round pick, all for the Mavericks to up and get Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans? Are you serious? First of all, let's talk about the Mavericks because I'm just ready to shit on them right now. Spencer Dinwiddie sucks. Like, he's a bad player. He's not a good shooter. He's not a great decision maker. He's just bad at everything in basketball, including defense too. A negative, just a bad player. And then you get to Davis Bertans, all he does is shoot, and he's kind of a fake shooter now. And to give up a guy in Kristaps Porzingis who's a great shot blocker for them and has had a really solid defensive year that's been a huge part of the Mavericks identity this year, I don't care if you're getting Goran Dragic with a buyout, that's just dumb, especially when the guys you're getting are just bad at the game of basketball. And then in addition, I know it's a second-round pick, but to give up a pick also, man, that's just crazy. So for the Mavericks, I'm gonna give them an F. Now for the Wizards, I'm gonna give them a B. Now the reason I'm giving them a B and not an A is, for one, I like the move, but Porzingis is not the perfect player. He has some flaws defensively, especially on the perimeter, and he's pretty injury prone, but he's an upgrade at the big man position and he's going to help them tremendously. I think next year with Beal coming back and the players they already have on the team, especially now that they've moved on from Montrezl Harrell, good riddance. It's a really nice direction for this team and it adds another level of interest to the team moving forward, especially if they keep Beal and then overpay him with that supermax. But now let's move on to the move of the day yesterday. James Harden and Ben Simmons both got traded for each other. And honestly, this is one of the few moves, obviously things can change, but it's one of the few moves that I can say comfortably that both teams won. The trade itself was Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, a 2022 first round pick with the right to defer until 2023, and a 2027 first round pick that's protected between 1 through 8 in exchange for James Harden and Paul Millsap. I'm gonna give both teams an A. For starters, when you look at the Sixers, they've literally just needed a guy like James Harden. Over the last couple of years, they had something similar in Jimmy Butler, and look at how close they got. Literally being one shot away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals until Kawhi Leonard put the dagger in Philadelphia. And this time, you have somebody better than a Jimmy Butler. I understand that James Harden's been in a little bit of a slump, but for starters, he hasn't been happy with the situation. That's factored into it, and he was coming off of that hamstring injury. And even though though James Harden has declined a little bit, he's still one of the better point guards and players in the league. I think he's going to fit perfectly with Joel Embiid, who's not really a great pick and roll big, but he hasn't really had a guard or a wing that can be a pick and roll ball handler anyway. Great players are going to find a way to make it work, and shout out to Daryl Morey because they called him a madman for waiting on this Ben Simmons trade, and look at what it got him. It got him James Harden, his buddy in Houston. And the fact that they didn't have to give up Thibault in this trade or Maxey, I like that. It's also a dub for the Sixers. Now for the Nets, I like this too for them. Ben Simmons obviously is going to fix a lot of their defensive issues. We know he can play make in transition as well, and him being alongside Kevin Durant, it's kind of like a little fake Twin Towers, but it's going to work for them, I think. Simmons playmaking is definitely going to help this team, and on a team where he doesn't have to even shoot the three ball or be a shot creator because he has two of the best shot creators in the league, it's going to be a perfect match, and I'm kind of scared for teams that have to face this roster in the playoffs. Now the free throw shooting is definitely something I'm a little bit concerned about, but I do think Ben Simmons can fix that. It's literally free throws. I can make them shits. And I also even like the other pieces they got. Andre Drummond sucks, so I'm not even going to talk about him. He's still going to help their rebounding and big man situation, but he's going to be trash overall, let's just be honest. But the pickup of Steph Curry I like, because let's not forget they do have Joe Harris. So they're going to have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, and Seth Curry around Ben Simmons. I mean, that is literally the perfect situation for Ben Simmons to be in. Not only does he not have to shoot, but he has other guys that can do it for him, and in the clutch, he can play that big man role because he has Kyrie Irving, he has Kevin Durant. It really is the perfect scenario, not only for Ben Simmons, but for the Brooklyn Nets, because James Harden obviously did not want to be there, and you're getting a guy that's going to fix major flaws on this team, and I think that those flaws were already there before Harden got there, and some of those flaws are completely fixed, and Ben Simmons is going to approximate some of James Harden anyway. Now obviously it isn't a perfect scenario, but the Nets weren't in a perfect scenario to begin with, so they really had to make the most of their situation, and they could not risk James Harden walking in the offseason or doing a sign and trade and just getting scraps for him. This is a great package that they could get, and it's honestly even a better one than I thought they were going to get. So for both of these teams, I'm gonna give them a solid A. It's very rare to see a trade like this with players of this magnitude, especially James Harden's stature, be traded and nobody comes out as a major loser. And before I wrap up this video, let me just give a quick side L to the Lakers because you're stuck with Russell Westbrook. John Wall was on the table and they declined it, and honestly I don't think it would have fixed that much anyways, but yeah, Westbrook is there for the long run this year and probably next year because his value isn't getting much better. It's only going to get worse. You're probably going to have to buy him out. But that concludes this video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, press the bell for post notifications, and follow me on social media. The links are down below. Make sure you check out Hoop Concessions, our podcast. We're going to be reacting to all these trades coming soon, episode 66. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Y'all stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.